Hello students, hope you all are fine. Today let's start with your social and political life, in which chapter 1 is on equality. Now this term equality is not new to you. You have been introduced with this term in your class 6 also. Now there you have studied that equality like liberty and justice are the basic principles of Indian Constitution. So today in this chapter we will study about equality, and the first question which arises in this chapter is, what is equality? So according to our Indian Constitution, equality says that any person who is living in this nation, in this country, are equal and they cannot be discriminated on the basis of their religion, gender, caste, educational or economical background. So now we all know that after attaining an age of 18, you get your voting right. So this kind of equality is called political equality. There are two more types of equality. Let me explain you that. First is social equality. Like political equality, there is social equality. Social equality says that if a person is male by gender and the other person is female by gender, both are equal in the eyes of Constitution. In the same way, if a person belongs to, say, Brahmin caste and the other person belongs to, say, Kshatriya caste, or you can say if a person belongs to Shia or Sunni caste, all are equal in the eyes of Constitution, right? If we talk about religion, if someone follows Hinduism, someone practices Christianity or Islam, all religions are equal in the eyes of Constitution. This type of equality is known as social equality. There's one more kind of equality, that is economical equality, in which we can say if one person is very rich and the other person is poor, both are equal in the eyes of Constitution. This type of equality is known as economical equality. So this is all mentioned in your Article 15 of the Constitution, and this Article 15 of the Constitution further states that any person who is living in this country can access or can go to any public place. Public place, that is your hotels, your restaurants, your cinema halls, etc. You can visit to these places if you are living in this country, and you can use public property if you are a part of this country. Public property like your ponds, wells, etc. Further, Article 15 states that untouchability, which used to exist in previous time, is now abolished and no one can practice it furthermore. So this is Article 15 of the Indian Constitution, which is trying to bring equality in the society. So this is equality in Indian Constitution. Now let me ask you one simple question. If I ask you whether this equality exists in the society, you may answer yes, this equality exists in society. But let me tell you the experience, real life experience of people, which are in the form of short stories. Let's begin with the first short story, which is of Kanta. Kanta works as housemaids. Like in your house, maids come to clean the dishes as well as your house. In the same way, Kanta used to work in Jain Sahib's house. Now this story begins with the election day, and Kanta was standing in a line and waiting for her turn to cast the vote. Like your father and mother goes to give the vote, wait in a line to cast their vote. In the same way, Kanta was standing in a line and she saw many people from her neighborhood standing in the same line, as well as Jain Sahib standing in the same line. So she thought, we are politically equal. But as the day begins, while coming back to her home and talking to Sujata, she was explaining Sujata that on that day her daughter Gudiya was not well, so she has to take her daughter to the doctor. But she don't have enough money, so she has to complete her work at Jain Sahib's house and then only she can ask for money in advance. And she did the same. She completed her work at Jain Sahib's house, asked for the advance money, came back home. She took her daughter Gudiya to the government hospital. Now on the very same day, she was again standing in a line where she cannot see any rich person standing in this line. Do you know why there was no rich person standing in this line? Because any person who belonged to a well-to-do family will never opt for government hospital. They will opt for private hospital, because in private hospital you don't have to wait for such long time or standing in the long queue to meet doctor, whereas in government hospital you have to stand in long queue. In the same way, like Kanta was standing because she was not economically very well. So standing in this line, Kanta thought that maybe we are politically equal, but economically we are unequal. So this was the story of Kanta. Let's begin with our second short story. This story is of small boy of class 4th who is a Dalit boy. This boy is Om Prakash Valmiki, who is a Dalit writer, and in his autobiography Jhutan, he explains his life experience when he was a boy of class 4th. Now this small boy of class 4th was asked to sit away from other boys because he was a Dalit boy. At times he was asked to sit at the back and everyone was sitting in front. Many of the times his classmates used to beat him, tease him uselessly without any reason, just because he was a Dalit boy. On one day, his principal came to him and asked him to sweep whole school with the playground. You know the reason why. Now, this boy started doing cleaning work of the school. Imagine, for a small boy of class 4th, was it easy to clean the whole school alone? It was very difficult task, but he did it, and this continued till his father saw him sweeping the school. And on that very day, his father decided that he'll take him away from that school. So this was the story of Om Prakash Valmiki. Who was discriminated on the basis of his caste. Let me explain you the real life experience of Mr. and Mrs. Ansari, who came from a small town to a big city. Now if you move from one place to another, you have to find out a place where you can live. In the same way, Mr. and Mrs. Ansari was searching for a place where they can live in this big city. And in this search, one of a broker was helping them out. Now this broker took them from one apartment to other apartment, and in one of the apartment, Mr. and Mrs. Ansari found a place where they can live. Now it was decided that this broker will talk to the landlady of the apartment and they will get the room. And this landlady agreed to give the room to them. But as soon as she came to know the names of Mr. and Mrs. Ansari, she refused to give the room to them, giving them a lame excuse that she cannot keep someone who eats non-veg or who will cook non-veg in this apartment. But this excuse was clear to Mr. and Mrs. Ansari because at the same time, in the same apartment, they can smell someone cooking fish in the apartment. So they got an idea why this landlady don't want to give this apartment to them, just because they belong to Muslim community. So now after getting this idea, this broker suggested Mr. and Mrs. Ansari to change their name from Mr. and Mrs. Ansari to Mr. and Mrs. Kumar. To which Mr. and Mrs. Ansari straight away refused. Now children, why do you think this Mr. and Mrs. Ansari refused to change their name? Mr. and Mrs. Ansari refused to change their name because by changing their name, they'll hurt their dignity. Every individual has their own dignity, and if we treat them inferior to us or unequal to us, their dignity is hurt. In the same way, if Mr. and Mrs. Ansari would have changed their surnames, it would have hurted their dignity. Now this was the story of Mr. and Mrs. Ansari, who were discriminated on the basis of their religion. Now take these stories again. In the first story of Kanta, she was discriminated because of her economical background. In the second story of Om Prakash Valmiki, he was discriminated because of his social and economical background. In the third story of Mr. and Mrs. Ansari, they were discriminated because of their religion. So if now I ask you whether this equality exists actually exist in society or not, you'll say no, there are inequalities in the society. But government is trying their best, putting their efforts to bring equality in the society. They are making laws like Article 15 to bring equality in the society, as well as trying to implement it very effectively. Whereas there are one more method through which government is trying to bring equality, that is through introducing various schemes. Now, to explain this, let me take an example of midday meal scheme. You must have heard about midday meal scheme, in which students going to school gets their meal or lunch at the school itself. Now, by this method or by this scheme, government has tried to bring more and more students to school. That is one benefit of this scheme. The other hidden benefit of this school is bringing equality among the society, because there is no caste prejudice in this scheme. That means any student who is attending the school will get this with the benefit of midday meal scheme by getting lunch at the school itself, whether they are from any caste, any religion, any race. It doesn't matter. A student who is studying in that government school will get midday meal scheme without any discrimination. Whereas the person who is cooking this food is also never asked they belong to which caste. That means government is trying to tell people that there should be no discrimination in the society. But this process is very slow, because people don't realize that they are creating discrimination and they actually do it. So who can actually bring equality in the society? It is you and me who can actually bring equality in the society, by realizing that whosoever is near to us is not inferior to us. They are all equal to us. By realizing that these caste, religion doesn't matter towards us. It is the people, they are equal to us, and we have to treat them with equal dignity. Because whenever we treat with unfair means to them, their dignity is disgraceful. That means they lose their dignity. They are not treated equally. So this equal situation or equality in the society can be brought only by realizing that we can bring equality in the society. With this, one thing more, do you really think this equality only, or issues in equality in the constitution, in the democracy, only exist in India? No beta, this exists in other countries, in other democracies also. With this one example of USA, you will understand that it is not only in Indian constitution that there are problems in bringing equality. In USA also, there was a incident in which you can easily understand how inequality was there. Do you know, in earlier times, Americans used to bring these Africans to USA for their work. Now, these African Americans who are living in America for many years are treated unequal on the basis of their race. Americans are fair enough, they are whitish in color, whereas these Africans are black in color. So, they are not treated equally in USA. Now, these African Americans had their separate schools and Americans had their separate schools. They were not allowed to sit in the bus anywhere they want to. The seats in the bus were reserved for Americans, and the last seats were only reserved for African Americans. What happened one day on 1st December 1955, there was one lady known as Rosa Parks. She was very tired on that day. She had a long day and she was really very tired. She sat on the reserved seats in the bus. And when it was a rule there, whenever you sit on a reserved seat, you have to vacate that seat as soon as any Americans step in the bus. That's what happened when Rosa Parks was sitting on a reserved seat, and when an American asked her to quit the seat, she refused to do that on that day because she was very tired on that day. So she just refused to leave the seat. and she started raising voice why there is such kind of ill treatment, why there is such kind of inequality with African American in USA. With this voice, more voices add on, and there was civil rights movement started there in USA, and this civil rights movement turned into Civil Rights Act 1964, according to which African American and Americans were treated equally, and this brought equality in the US government. Now, according to this act, African American can sit anywhere in the bus. They were allowed to go any school they want to. There was no more such discrimination on the basis of their race. So this was a small story of Rosa Parks which held and which brought equality in USA also. So we can say that this issues of equality does not only exist in Indian Constitution, it exists in many other democracies also. And who can bring equality in society? It is you and me who can bring equality in society by realizing that every person who is near to us are not inferior to us. They are equal to us. Only this thought of us can bring equality in the society. With this beautiful message, here we end.